In the ongoing conflict in Gaza, Israel is meticulously evaluating every moment of its participation. President Benjamin Netanyahu's recent determination has generated a stir. President Joe Biden has been pressing Israel to temporarily halt the confrontation. In response, the White House announced that Israel has agreed to implement a 4-hour daily humanitarian pause in its attacks against Hamas in northern Gaza. Along these lines, the White House has offered to mediate in the release of hostages held by the militant group. Biden asked Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a daily pause in the attacks. Simultaneously, Biden has mentioned having urged Israel to take a break of at least 3 days to facilitate negotiations with the hostages. In response, Netanyahu announced a 4-hour halt in daily attacks. Likewise, Biden noted the current absence of expectations for a formal ceasefire, expressing some delay in Israel's acceptance of a humanitarian truce. John Kirby, spokesman for the National Security Council, explained that Israel has committed to announcing each 4-hour window 3 hours in advance. He added that Israel has set up a second corridor for Palestinians to evacuate areas that have been the focus of the military offensive against Hamas, and has created a coastal route that connects to the region's main north-south highway. Similar pauses have been seen in recent days, during which tens of thousands of people fled south. However, yesterday's announcement appears to be an attempt to formalize and expand the process, as the United States pressures Israel to take greater protective measures towards the population. Despite these gestures, Israel has confronted Hezbollah, its enemy. Hezbollah militants have been carrying out occasional attacks on Israeli territory, especially from Lebanon. The Israel Defense Forces reported rocket and missile attacks in northern Israel tonight. These attacks have deeply disturbed Israel. In response, the Israel Defense Forces took action against Hezbollah facilities in southern Lebanon. The targets attacked include surveillance complexes, posts, and technological assets belonging to the terrorist group. Hezbollah operatives also launched an anti-tank missile in the Adamites area, although no injuries were reported. The Israel Defense Forces responded with artillery fire toward the source of the attack. These events have generated global concern about the increase in tensions between Israel and Hezbollah. Furthermore, Israeli troops have made significant progress. Israel Defense Forces Combat Engineer Corps forces discovered a new entrance to another tunnel belonging to the Hamas militant group. This would be the 91st tunnel found in the area since the beginning of the Israeli operation on the ground. Regarding the characteristics of tunnel number 91 discovered in terms of size, origin, and purpose, it resembles the other 90 previously found in the area. However, its location is what sets it apart. It was found by soldiers from the Combat Engineer Corps during a second inspection of a single-family residence that had an outdoor pool, located in an exclusive coastal neighborhood. Inside a bedroom full of brightly colored clothing, the soldiers found a door under 3 small beds that led to the hiding place of the supposed monsters. A reserve engineering officer, whose identity was kept anonymous in the broadcasts, showed the tunnel to a journalist, highlighting Hamas's questionable operational ethics. An image of the tunnel was provided to the media, which divided into 2 directions, one towards the west, towards the coast, and another towards the southeast, pointing towards Gaza City, where the main network is presumed to be located, of Hamas tunnels. This network constitutes the epicenter of the Israeli attack on Gaza, being key to neutralizing Hamas. However, it represents an extremely dangerous and complex entity for the Israel Defense Forces, with underground structures extending beneath densely populated settlements. And the army declares that it is forced to take the confrontation to homes, hospitals, schools, and clinics, presumably used as shields by the tunnel network. On October 7th, Hamas terrorists broke into Israeli homes, turning them into conflict zones. Now Hamas seeks to use civilians as human shields, forcing Israeli soldiers to adopt similar measures. The Israel Defense Forces have stated that they avoid direct confrontations in the tunnels due to the risk of explosive traps, opting for their location and subsequent destruction. The Combat Engineer Corps is responsible for clearing routes using heavy armored machinery, such as D9 excavators, to allow ground forces to move into the Gaza Strip. Additionally, they search for and eliminate Hamas infrastructure, including tunnels, rocket launchers, and areas not affected by airstrikes. According to one official, the Army's gradual advance into Gaza involves a thorough search of every building for tunnels and weapons. This review is carried out twice, a first quick search and a second, much more detailed one, classified as a surgical operation. The reserve engineering officer mentioned the thoroughness of the process, going through every corner to ensure the entire search was covered. In the first 10 days of the ground offensive, 28 rocket launch sites were located, with dozens of launchers and rockets, and 91 tunnels were discovered in the northern Gaza region alone. South of Gaza City, another 40 tunnels and multiple rocket launchers were found. Like tunnels, rocket launch sites are often difficult to detect, as they are hidden underground in residential areas. This is why Israel has stated its goal of targeting these settlements. The White House, under the Biden administration, has suggested the possibility of Israel maintaining some security control in the Gaza Strip after the war against Hamas. This idea was raised by John Kirby, spokesman for the National Security Council. Kirby indicated that there is a possibility that Israeli forces will remain in Gaza after the cessation of hostilities, assuming initial responsibility for security. This pronouncement is notable as it represents the first time such a scenario has been raised publicly by a U.S. official. Previously, Israeli authorities had denied the intention to regain control of the Strip, although certain statements by Netanyahu had raised concerns in this regard, prompting multiple rejections from key figures in the United States. Contrary to that position, Kirby supports the notion that the Israel Defense Forces should maintain a role in the security of Gaza after the conflict, focusing on establishing a long-term plan and governance system for the region affected by the confrontation. Although a practical plan has not yet been outlined. Unfortunately, the war is creating a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, causing food shortages. Bakeries, a vital source of bread in the area, are closing due to lack of grain and fuel. The few establishments open serve long lines of customers waiting for hours to purchase bread, while the cost of available food continues to rise, becoming unaffordable for many. Me Abdul Karim, a 43-year-old government official from Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza region, expressed concern about the food situation. "I am waiting, preparing for the worst." According to a recent report by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and the World Food Program, basic food supplies in Gaza are estimated to be depleted in about a week. This devastating war, started by a few irresponsible and brutal militants, sadly continues to claim innocent lives. We appreciate your monitoring of the situation.